going to be a fun homeschool call because we're coming off the tail end of our homeschool summit. So that's what's going to be, we get to chat about that. I'd love to hear feedback on what's happening. Loyla's decided, she's agreed. She's agreed to come out from weeding and come in and help us to just kind of rethink maybe some time management. I had a conversation with one of our members yesterday, and she was in a panic mode because this is her really kind of a first year really homeschooling, and she's got two littles. One of them is 5, I believe, and the other was like 2.5, 3. And of course the little guy is wanting as much attention as the older one, who's actually legitimately she's trying to make him do school. And she was like, I don't know what to do. It was just a panic. I was trying to get everybody together. He wanted all my attention and I had to give her attention. I don't know what to do. So I was like, hey, good timing. And I know she'll be listening to this later. She's probably in the middle of that homeschooling right now. But thanks, Loyla, for hanging out with us today.
Glad to be here.
Yay, yay. Blessings. So I'd like to kind of open up, first of all, by just asking kind of some of your feedback from this summit. Danielle, do you have some feedback on what maybe some of your takeaways were, or what you might have implemented since then?
I haven't had a chance to really implement much. We actually had a field trip yesterday, but definitely interested in time management, because my girls they get it truly from me, but they will rabbit trail on something. And then before you know it, we're in science, and then we're talking about who knows what. So definitely trying to learn how to kind of rein it in and keep the lessons short and sweet, but also give them opportunities to ask questions and be involved.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else have anything? They have any feedback from the conference or the summit that they maybe were able to implement, or that was like life-changing, or maybe that they hadn't thought of before? I always make it like it has to be such a big deal. Sometimes the smallest things for me, you think about a ship, if you just barely move that rudder just a tiny bit, after a while, that tiny movement will take you to completely a whole nother destination. And sometimes it's those little things have the implementing. Anything else? Anyone? We'll open up. Sarita, do you have anything from the summit that you were able to implement in your day? Or
one thing that I did take away was just kind of start doing something. Like, everything doesn't have to be perfect. So it's like, if all I can do is the grammar, or all I can do is like have them write, practice a couple letters, just do something. So don't let the whole day go and be like, well, I can't sit down and do the whole schedule, so I can't do anything. Because I'm very black and white like that sometimes, and I will get stuck. Like, that's not even with the homeschool, it's like with my life in general. So that was really helpful for me to put, so that I can put that in practice and start something, and not be like, I have to wait for everything to be in order to do it. So
that's
yeah.
good. That's good. And that's many of us suffer from that perfectionism. It's an all or none. If it's not perfect, if I can't do it all the way, black or white, then I'm not doing it at all. And my daughter was that way, and still can tend to err on that side, because she would get her homework all done and then she wouldn't turn it in. And then I'd like, I know you did that. I'd look in her backpack and it's loaded with but it wasn't perfect, so she couldn't turn it in. So she'd keep redoing things over and over until it was perfect, and it was really a struggle. So maybe being mindful, knowing that information, watching that in our children to see what's that, if they're showing those characteristics as well. Like, are they trying to constantly erase? Teaching them. I think one of the things I saw as a really great tip was that having them write with a pen and just cross it out. So it's like, it's okay to make mistakes. They can cross it out with a pen and then write it again, as opposed to having to erase it and make it so perfect. And I caught myself yesterday with my granddaughter. We were working on some letters and doing some copy work, and I was no, that's not right. That's not where it goes. And I caught myself. I'm like, oh, stop. And I was like almost reinforcing that perfectionism. So yeah. Danielle says she's the same way. Exactly. I wanted to share something before we kind of jump into some time management stuff, is that I saw a funny TikTok, and I was going to share it, but I thought I don't want to bring any bad feelings against the moms who aren't able to homeschool, or maybe this is just not they don't feel called to that. And I didn't want to bring shame in or any bad negative feelings, but it was so funny because this lady did this TikTok and she was basically everything that's said about homeschool, she flipped it and was saying it about traditional schooling. So she says, oh, like she's talking to a friend and she's like, oh, hi, oh, Johnny, oh, you're putting him in school this year. Oh, you know what? Are you worried about the socialism there? Because I hear there's some kids in there that are really tough and that they really have behavior issues and it's causing that socialization. They're socializing with some kids that maybe aren't so great and they're picking up some habits. Are you worried about that? She did that. And one of the other things, she said a bunch of stuff. And one of the things she said was like, but you know, at least they're getting lots of enrichment, right? Like, because they get to go on these really great field trips. So they get to engage and oh, there's only two for, oh, we did 3 last week. Oh, okay. You only got, oh, and you're not allowed to go anymore. You're not allowed to go to the field trips. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure that's a good choice for you. I'll just really have a good time. Yeah, it was really funny. It was a funny TikTok, but I thought I can't really share that because I don't want to be mean. It wasn't meant in meanness at all, but it was sweet. I was funny. I was just laughing. Anyways, so Loyla, what are some tips for these mamas that, going in, a lot of them are just getting restarted. Maybe not. Maybe you continue like you're learning every day, but maybe you are just kind of going along with a traditional school year and you're starting this week or in the next weeks and you're finding some stress. Getting started is kind of the hardest thing.
Oh boy. This school year is a brand new opportunity. It's just all opportunity. If you could take that inner voice that's based in comparison, that's based in a school model that was made by people with completely different agendas, completely different needs. It was the industrial age. I think this is really important to remind everyone that the public school model was based on a culture of industrialism.
Mm.
It needed lots of people to do the same thing at the same time based on the clock and learn how to stand in line, right? And follow instructions. So none of that is bad, but we're not in the industrial age anymore. So it's a bit antiquated, which is really good news for you. It is freedom. That's one concept I think is really valuable. The other thing is this: learning is a lifelong commitment. How many of us, like, just to prove the point, think about your own education. What did you learn in the first 12 years of your life compared to what you learned after?
Yesterday.
Right? So this brings us to a very valuable question, which is, what am I supposed to be doing in these formative educational years? And it's simple. Your role, mom, is to teach your child how to learn. And I know we've talked about this, like this comes up all the time. How do you learn? What's a good way to read a book? There is a way to read a book. There's actually a book, a very famous, popular book called How to Read a Book. Right? And I can't remember the author's name, maybe one of you know, but it's worth looking up, because I remember thinking, is there a way to read a book? And yeah, there really is. So once you know how to read a book, then you can teach your child how to read a book. Once a child learns how to read a book, teach your child how to learn. This one is specifically addressed to reading, just reading a book. Once your child can read a book, the doors just blow open on learning, right? So that's my second tip. And I'll give you a short little story just to hammer home this point. I brought my firstborn home to homeschool when he was already in high school. He had gone to a private school. He was a genius. This boy was just so smart. I had him in a private Christian school back then, and he would ace everything. They used him like they would send him out to the nationals to win all their spelling bees and history bees and you name it. So when I brought him home to homeschool him for high school, I was terrified. I knew I wasn't smarter than my son. I learned then I don't have to be smarter than my son. I just have to guide him to where the information is. It's on him to digest it at that point. Okay. That being said, I learned he had a photographic memory. He wasn't actually practicing the necessary mental muscles of learning. He could just memorize a page and ace a test, right? So that was horrifying. Okay, SATs come. I know college is on the other side of these SATs. I'm terrified because I've had him home. He's not real. I'm realizing he doesn't have all the skills of learning, and he aced the SATs. He aced them. Because you can't ace the SATs by memorizing a sheet, right? It doesn't work that way. So I asked him, how did you do that? Even the writing portion, like he aced everything, all 3 portions of the SATs. He said, Mom, I read. I learned my literature. I learned history. I learned grammar. I learned how to communicate just by reading. And he read How to Read a Book. Yes, Millie, by Jerome I think it's Mortimer. It's this, yeah, but that's the book. Anyway, so point number 3, read. And then my last point, and then I'm done. Your job, the best way to educate a child is to stimulate the thirst of curiosity. It's not to pound information down their throats like a turkey before Thanksgiving. We're not stuffing information down their throat. That's not the best way to learn. It's to stimulate curiosity. So you get outside and you look around and you ask questions that don't force information, but get the curiosity going. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. So I'll open up. Any thoughts, questions, anything for Loyla right now? You have, so one of the blessings that we have with Loyla, and the God has brought her, just someone recommended her, as y'all know, and then as my conversations with her continued, it was like, and she loves Torah, and she's excited about, building up women in Torah. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. But she's a parenting coach, like she's a professional paid parenting coach. And if you're struggling in areas like this, how much better that you have a resource now that you can get a hold of someone who's not just like, oh, I'm good at this, but she's literally like certified, legitimate parenting coach who is Torah pursuant. So she's going to be in alignment with the things that you're doing. And also a seasoned homeschooler who's being able to go through that you can reach out to her. And I know she has really great programs and everything, even too, for her time management. But does anyone have any questions for Loyla right now? I know Crystal was like probably jumping up and down because she was like, just read. Because I know, she's shaking her head. You have cute lipstick on.
Oh, thank you.
She was, Crystal will tell all of you every time we're around, she'll be like, just teach them to read. Get them to
teach
read.
them to read. And I just love what Lola was saying, because, you can't force your kids to do anything, and you can't make your children learn. You can only teach them. It's up to them to learn. And I always say, you can't lead, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But you know what you can do? You can salt the oats. You can make them thirsty, right, Lola? You can make them want to read the book. You can entice them with things. And I hear a lot of times, and I'm so excited that Lola's come on here because she's got such great insight and wealth. I just love listening to her. But when you have a child and they and I have this question asked me all the time. My child just won't finish their work. I'll walk away and then they won't do it because I'm not standing over them making them do it. And I said, well, what's in it for them? You know? And I'm going to tell you a little trick that I did with my kids. Please don't put me in parent prison. But I used to, if my kids didn't work, they didn't eat. And my kids had gone to bed with bread and water before. Okay. And that's, what does it say in Timothy? Those who don't work, don't eat, right? So if my kids didn't do their work, they didn't necessarily get the food. If they didn't feed the animals, they didn't eat, because the animals aren't going to eat, neither are you. And I know that's terrible. Please don't throw me in jail for that.
Her children are alive and thriving. And so I'll just say that. So all of you in shock listening later or now, her children are alive and thriving. And I promise you, they all are at healthy weights and healthy.
They are. And, and it's not that they didn't eat. It's just they didn't get to eat the good stuff. They ate bread and water but it's a motivator. The stomach motivates the mind. It really does.
Yeah, they don't get all the special sweet stuff. They get, I mean, maybe here's what you get for dinner. You get salad, like you get your stuff that aren't necessarily your favorites, aren't on your top 3. You don't get dessert. Everyone else gets dessert. I mean, you can use great things to motivate. Yeah, meanie. And I thought I was mean. The kitchen closed at my house. It's like kitchen's closed. So, and I'm not a short order cook. Everyone gets the same food. Like this is what's for dinner. If you don't eat it, you don't eat it. I mean, you don't have to eat it, but you also don't get anything else. And I'm seeing so many people where they're like, oh, I just give all these options and we do all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, that didn't happen at our house. I just didn't have the luxury of the time nor the luxury of the finances to be able to have that many different options. And my daughter will remember at one point we had seafood surprise soup. It was something I had bought at like grocery outlet or something. And at that time we were not eating clean, biblically clean. And it was like octopus tentacles and muscle. And she's like, and mom, you were like, you have to try it. You have to. I remember just staring at the bowl and all of us were like, she's like, but we had to try it. And it was like, no one wanted it. And she's like, but I don't remember you giving in. I said, I don't think I did. It was a principle. Like you had to learn, even if you didn't like it, you had to try it. You had to. And I did hear someone say, if you have food eaters, and we'll move on, but that there's these they say if they don't want the food, they can say you don't have to eat it, but we're going to put it here and we're going to learn about that food later. So then what they ended up doing is bringing the food back like the next morning or something. They didn't or that evening, and they said you're going to smell it, you're going to touch it, put it on your tongue just to take, and you're going to learn about the food and have it, experience the food so that next time, and you're going to take a little bite, and here you're allowed to spit it out. This is what this lady was sharing. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of like that. I like the idea of them having a moment to actually, instead of just saying, you're eating it or you're going hungry, actually letting them explore. She still made them, they didn't get anything new to eat. If you don't eat you don't eat. So hope that's helpful. Boy, lots of chat. Anything? Let's just hop into, I'm going to say, Cassie had a question about tips for young children too young to read on their own. How do you encourage independent learning, or does that have to be for just older children? Loyla, what do you think?
A great question, first of all, but there are so many ways. If your question is based on the principle, how do I get my young child interested in reading? There are so many tactile ways of getting a child ready. Simply having them take their finger and follow a straight line, playing with Play-Doh, rolling it up and making it a straight line, a curved line. There are, and using Torah letters. I mean, you can be teaching your child how to learn to read Hebrew the same way, even before they can read a book. So just identifying shapes, right? Because that's part of learning how to read too. Is this a circle? Is this a square? Is this so these are easy ways to help a child prep. Now, if you're just talking about How do I educate my child before they're old enough to read? Dumping out a box of blocks or Legos or a ball. These are all teaching, these are educational opportunities. They're problem solving. All of education becomes various steps of problem solving. So any little thing your child does that engages them to problem solve is education. So Crystal says, where do you begin with picking a book when you start to read? Picture books are great. Picture books with one word in them, a simple word. Yeah, anything that engages their interests, that has simple images. I really want to encourage people, especially today, and I'm sure this has been said before, avoid the busyness, avoid the high stimulation. This is going to shoot everyone in the foot.
Mhm.
You become numb.
I mean, we can't even, you see the news now, one thing is going on the pot, one thing is going on the side, one thing is going across the thing, one thing is going, there's things going everywhere. Plus there's stuff happening all in the background because we're raising a bunch of ADHD people, like, and really just making kids are watching cartoons that are not age appropriate, that are just like this, the scenes change too fast. Remember, we think, oh, that's so old school because it's slow. The same thing with the books. So that's one of the things I was very mindful in starting writing Gracie books, was that they were simple. The images were simple. So then it allows you to take that time and let them start creating a story in their own mind. They're creating things, and having, you have a, if you have a computer, let them tell you a story. We let them write the story. You pick a picture, like go to Canva, it's free, and make a picture, and then type a couple words to, who's this? What's her name going to be? And you start teaching them to make a story, and it's their story, and they get excited. And then you just staple the sides together, and they have their own book they made. And she was talking about blocks, and Cassie, you said independent learning. I kind of reread the inspiration for how do you encourage them to independently learn. The blocks, the Legos, and then you give them instructions and walk away. I mean, it's you know, they're not really you're teaching them to learn. So you're saying, okay, put all the blocks in put the red ones here and the green ones here and the blue ones here, and then you walk away and give them a few minutes and then you come back. Okay, see how high you can stack this, and you walk away. And then maybe you count that for them and you talk about the colors or any other ideas. Is that, you guys are more professional than me. Like, any other ideas? Independently learning. How old are your children, Cassie? Okay, 3.5 and 2. I know Caitlin's kind of in the same, got kids in the same age group as well. 3.5 and 2. Well, this is like the fun time. And don't wish it away. I can't wait till you can do this without me standing here. I can't wait. If I could do anything over, it would be not to wish away every stage. You know, this is a fun thing. Even with starting to do letters. I love the Hebrew, like learning the Hebrew, like put some shaving cream on a plate, or get a cookie sheet and put shaving cream all on it and let them draw, start letting them draw in it. And then later you start having them do letters. You can do Hebrew, you can do just the regular ABCs, you can do all that stuff. Yes, Danielle.
Hello. I actually have a question kind of regarding like independent learning. My oldest, she's 11 in 6th grade. She has always just been the child that if it's not perfect and if it requires effort from her, she gives up. If she perceives it as being too hard, she just will not do anything. She just falls at a standstill. And I don't really know how to help her or motivate her and encourage her. I do tell her like, hey, like you can do hard things. We go over those affirmations, but like she just doesn't believe it. And I don't really know what else I can do because she's so smart. She's so smart, but she just doesn't believe in herself. And I don't know what else I can do to really encourage her to just kind of take that leap and really explore learning. She loves like fantasy type things. So um, I know some people don't agree with this, but we're going to dive into the Chronicles of Narnia because she's, it's a little bit fantastical and all that. But just trying to get her engaged, but I don't know, like she's she's such a difficult child to teach. And I feel like, I don't know, not that I'm failing her, but I am just at my wit's end with ideas on how to actually help her, because I tell her, like, I can't do all the work for you. Like, you've got to put in effort. Like, I'm here to help you, but helping is not doing it for you. Like, we have to do this as a partnership. Like, I am here to help you, I'm here to guide you, but you also have to put in effort to try to get this project done, this book done, whatever it is.
Loyla, you want to hit that one?
Yeah, this is a principle I teach in a course called Lose the Loud. It's a really common challenge, common trigger. Kids not wanting to do the work for whatever reason. We've got the left brain, right brain. Some children just naturally do better with the English, literature, grammar, and other kids are all like math, logic, science, and it's always going to be that way, right? But there's a deeper issue here, which is, as you said, doing hard things. So the strategy that I teach is to tap into your child's passion, their dream, right? Because no matter how young a child is, 3, 4 years old, or how old they are, everybody has a dream, a thing they want to do someday, and it doesn't matter what it is. When you're able to tap into your child's passion, now you have a place to start. Because let's say a child wants to be, I don't know, I mean, kids today want to be a TikTok star, whatever it is they want to be. There are certain characteristics, certain values, certain habits that must be developed in order to achieve that dream. When you can have that conversation where you, first of all, tap into their passion, then identify the characteristics, behaviors, habits that are practiced to become good at this, now you can attach the skill, the academic that they're struggling with the behaviors of their passion, right? Because there's going to be commonalities. Let's say your child wants to be a ballerina one day, right? Well, what are the behaviors? What are the habits of somebody who becomes a ballerina? They have to tolerate pain. They have to practice hard. They have to be diligent. They have to eat well. They have to really keep focused on their vision and what they're going to do. Hey, how can we tap into those behaviors while you're doing math, which you don't like? Because it's not really about the math. Maybe you're never going to use algebra, although they will. But maybe, right, they're thinking, why do I have to do this? I'm never going to use this skill. You may not, but what are the mental muscles that you can practice doing algebra? They're going to help you become a ballerina. So from the outset, it looks like algebra and being a ballerina have absolutely nothing in common. But when you look underneath the surface, there is a way to draw that dotted line of connection. And now, although it's never going to be fun, you can help your child remember, and your child can also kind of focus in on, hone in on, okay, I don't like this, I don't do it well. I don't have to do it well. But if I want to be a ballerina one day, this is a great opportunity to practice some skills that I can easily use over here.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to just address a couple things. One, what you said reminded me instantly of when I was a child a long time ago. The way, it was, the motivation was, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, it was, we were very simple. I want to be strong like Popeye, like, and so what do you have to do if you want to be strong like Popeye? You have to eat your spinach. So that's how she got me to eat to do certain things was so that I would meet that these are what we have to do to be this person. You have to do things you don't like. So I just want to share that for anyone old enough to remember that there was like, oh yeah, you have to eat your spinach. You have to do certain things to get to that point. And teaching the characteristics. And I know again, Crystal's on here, just it's character. If we're learning character, what's the character traits? What's the character traits of that thing you want to be? Do you want to be a race car driver? Do you want to be a mermaid? Well, mermaids have to swim all day long and hold their breath for a really long time. And they have to find the character in that they have to. And then on a practical level, this is how we're going to practice that so that you can be a mermaid when you grow up. And I want to say, Danielle, you made a comment about doing Narnia. No shame zone here. There's no one's shaming you over what you're choosing. Not allowed to do that. If you don't choose to use that in your home, then don't. But what's permissible to some is not permissible to others, and vice versa. So that doesn't happen here. So thanks for sharing that, Danielle. And you can feel free to say that that's what you're doing. I loved the Narnia series and I loved teaching it with my daughter, and we went through it and it was valuable. And what happened is, if you're doing it with your child, if there's something that doesn't align, you can address that and you can talk about it. And, you can talk about where our power and our strength comes from, and it's not magic, or it's not, I mean, you can go there and you can adjust. And I just thank you for saying that. And the other comment that you made was that you felt like to a degree, or in some case, that you're failing her. Can I just say, no teacher in a public school would be doing what you're doing. Nowhere else could she get the attention or the care that you even care that she's not engaged. So just that alone, you've far exceeded anything she could have gotten anywhere else on this planet. Do we have any other questions? Pietra runs she doesn't have her camera on, but it's in the evening there in South Africa. Pietra runs a homeschool and she runs a homeschool, but with other people, like she's homeschooling other people's children. So she is also, I would consider her an expert in this area. And I know she has a passion for this. Hey, sister. And again, she's South Africa bedtime, staying up for us. But do you have anything to add to that, Pietra? Anything about, just how to help motivate her to learn when she doesn't really care about it?
I have to say, getting them to see the future plan and that how this will help your future, whatever that might be, because it will regularly change because they're still so young. So you'll regularly have something new to grab onto and to motivate with. And I think one of the things that we tend to do is to help too quickly. It seems very harsh to make them just finish it, to set a boundary that if this is not finished, almost like Crystal did with the supper, but if this is not finished, we can't go and do this. Because usually, especially if you follow like some type of curriculum, it builds onto each other. So if you're just rushing through it, helping them too much, they miss the building blocks for the next level, whether it be math, language. So I think sometimes we have to be the bad guy and it's not fun, but it's part of teaching them also to learn independently, because I've realized that the smaller my group gets, the more attention can give them. And of course, that's a good thing, giving them the attention that they need. But it's like they then just too easily ask for help just because it's there. And me feeling like I need to get through this, just quickly help so that we can get along, instead of instilling them the ability to do something by themselves and completing it by themselves, even if it's hard, because in the long term it will reap rewards. It will give them self-confidence, even if we don't think it will, because by not completing it and just giving up, it doesn't teach them perseverance and that I can do this and I have the confidence to do this, even if it's hard. So it's just a balance of sometimes being the good cop and sometimes being the bad cop, and then trying to see when that should be.
That's a really good tip. And instantly, Pietra, I thought, how does the father teach us? Because isn't that ultimately what we're trying to teach our children, is how we teach our children to walk in Torah? How are we teaching them to build these building blocks of character in their lives so that they then as adults can walk that out? And what does he do for us? Does he hold our hand through every tiny little thing? Maybe when we're 2 or 3, we give them building block. He gave us building blocks and said, try this and this. And then he left us alone for a second. And then he came back before we could throw the blocks at the TV and break everything in the house. Those little things, he was closer. And then little by little, he got farther and farther and farther away from us. And he didn't leave us or forsake us, but instead he's guiding us and overseeing it, but he's giving us something. We had to build the muscle to be able to fail and be like, oh, you got that wrong. And it's okay. It's actually encouraging failure. I think I shared this at one point. There was, I don't remember, it might've been Mel Robbins. I don't remember who shared this, but that she was encouraged every week at their dinner table every Friday night, I was, ding, ding, I don't know, but she was sharing the story that every Friday night they had to sit at the table and they had to share something they failed at. So it became something that was instead of saying, oh, what'd you do right? And it was more of the pressure was on that you tried something and failed. So it had to be like, oh, I tried out for the school play and I didn't make it. And it was like, oh, yay for Sally. She didn't make the school play. Or I ran for school president and I didn't make it. And making failure something that they were moving towards, that they were at least putting their self out there. Same thing happening here is that great. We're gonna put some time. You making them sit and actually finish something and be like, it's hard and I know it is, but this is what has to happen and there has to be a consequence.
Exactly. And even more important to me these days that I find more than academics is how low the emotional intelligence in general is. Now, the kids that I have come from a public setting, so it might be different being more in a full-time home setting. But part of failure is learning emotional intelligence. Part of, I don't want to do this, but I have to put my butt down and start working, is part of dealing with those emotions and what to do. So rather guide the emotions in the time of not wanting to do it. And I know it's easier said than done, because we also need to still develop our emotional intelligence. But it's part of schooling. It's part of learning for life. It's more than just having neat handwriting and completing the list of prescribed readers. Also teaching them life lessons.
Absolutely. We're all giving you big hands, big high fives and amens. So since this is a thing, Loyla, I'm going to ask you as a parenting coach here, then let's not talk about homeschooling. Then let's leave on a note of parenting. As a parent, walking through, and being emotionally intelligent and being aware of our emotional intelligence is saying, I saw Danielle made a comment, sometimes maybe I've been the bad cop too often. How do I have a child who's not sitting down? What are some examples of some verbiage, or how do I walk that through trying to be emotionally intelligent and being aware of that, and being able to still accomplish that goal?
So emotional intelligence. We have to teach our children how to become emotionally intelligent. So of course we have to have it first before we can teach it. When I'm working with a client, I'm not really addressing the parent's emotional intelligence, but I know that as I'm teaching her what to say to her child, it's helping her recalibrate her own mind too. So I want to answer the question in the same way. How do I teach my child emotional intelligence? And as I'm sharing, assess your own emotional intelligence. Where is your alignment? Where do you need alignment to? It's really not hard, right? And this is the thing that I want to encourage you with, all of us with, because we're all dealing with strong emotions, is what does emotional intelligence look like? And how do I make it so simple that I can walk my child through it? So first, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize I'm having a feeling, not ignore it. I'm having a feeling. What is this feeling? So number one is acknowledge the feeling, the sensation, whatever it is. Number two is being able to tag it. Just like when you're having a garage sale, you go around and you tag your items with prices. Emotions are the same way. We have to tag them. What is this thing I'm feeling? Sometimes we struggle even to do that much. Even to just go through step one and step two is challenging. So, okay, I'm feeling something. My body is telling me something. And this is key. This is a whole nother conversation, but for the moment, my emotions are trying to tell me something that I need to do something, but I'm feeling something. Tag it. What is the feeling I'm feeling? Speak it. I'm feeling frustrated. Those are 3 steps right there. We tend to want to like make it cram everything in, but we need little micro steps, especially when we're teaching children. There's a tendency to make everything, to mush a whole lot of little steps into one behavior that's instantly overwhelming and rejected. So breaking it down, I'm feeling X. Okay, it's okay to feel X. It's okay to feel frustrated. Step number 4, what do I do with it? What do I do with this feeling that we've now identified as frustration? That we've identified, it's okay to have this feeling. But as what was said before by Pietra, and I hope I said her name right, Pietra, now we engage the brain. Now we engage our logic center. We have to learn how to override the toddler emotions, the emotional brain, which is very primitive, and access our logic. And this is what we learn through Torah, through our relationship with our Heavenly Father, is that His word is good and right and works. And when we're feeling all over the place, we can engage our logic, engage what we've learned, and parent our emotions. Our emotions tend to act like little kids. I want, I need, I don't like, I resist. And the parent brain has to come in and say, I know, I get it. I've been there too. Let's do something else. Let's find a way to soothe and regulate the emotion. And I could go on to talk about like the neurology behind it, because sometimes to understand what's happening helps you know what to do next. But that's a whole conversation. I don't know if you want to get into, Charlie. But to summarize this little piece, emotional intelligence is really about breaking it down into little micro steps where you acknowledge the feeling, you label the feeling, you verbalize the feeling, you accept that it's okay in the moment to have the feeling, and then what can we do to regulate or normalize and feel better?
That's a lot. That's just power packed. I know that I encourage, I wrote it down the thing. If you can see, I have my background blurred, huh? Let me unblur me. This book is called EQ Applied by Justin Bariso, and it's about emotional intelligence. It might be a term you've never heard before, is emotional intelligence. It might be new to you. Mine is all written in, backed up. It's going to talk about a lot of stuff, which you could actually use it even in, especially junior high, high school. You could actually use this as part of teaching them about, I mean, the way that I teach my littles about their emotional intelligence is I threw a bunch of construction paper and we're going to make let's make a monster, and what color is this monster that's angry, and they make a red monster, or they make this monster all these What color is, let's make a funny cartoon person. If you don't want to say monsters, you know, if you have boys, I don't know, truck, you can use anything. You can use anything. You can use whatever. You can make bubbles and make the colors. What color would the bubbles be if they were mad and you use food coloring? What color would the, you can do things to make them start being aware at really little of their emotions. And I know that if you go back to some of our old parenting calls with Simi, she talks about, and I use this all the time, is asking them, so how frustrated are you? Are you this frustrated or this frustrated? And that instantly changes their mind because they're now problem solving and they're not focused on their emotions. They're now they're taking it. It's shocking their system a little. So doing those things, we can still do them as they get older. I still use those same tips that I've learned with myself. I use them in my marriage, asking my husband, so is this a big frustration or a small, like, where are we on the frustration scale? I don't go, are you this frustrated, Randy, or this frustrated, you know, but on the scale of 1 to 10, how bad is this? And what happens is it just changes as we start going into problem solving. And so, yeah, so this is, you know, it's a book for you, not for your kids, but it's just really about taking, Crystal, do you have anything to say about it? I know you've read it, so.
I do, but first of all, let me apologize. It's Loyla, not, I got the name wrong. So let me apologize for that. But you know, I just wanted to say that these books about emotional intelligence and these books that we pull out that are our self-help, if we know, I appreciate so much what she's saying about how we take control of our emotions. Once we know how to control ours, then we can go down, like you were describing, Charlie, and help the children work through those steps too. And I think it's very important that we take a moment to teach ourselves so that we can pay it forward to them. And then they will grow up with those skills and not just have to learn them from a book like we did or something. And those books, like what you're talking about, EQ and things like that, I encouraged and I required that my high schoolers and middle schoolers read those books. Because if they're good for me, they're good for them. And I don't necessarily look at a book myself and say, oh, well, this is good for me, but you're not an adult, so maybe you don't need it. Why? We can't equip them while they're young before they even have the problems. And then, you know, like there's a book by John Maxwell that's called Failing Forward. How exciting would it be with our children if we sat down and we read that book to them and taught them how to deal with failure? Even when they're in elementary grade level, they can get it. And I'm going to go back to Loyla's site and dig up some of the treasures that are there. I'm so excited. That's all I have.
That's it. And she's out. I just posted, that's there's the link to that John Maxwell book. Also, both those books are all on the Kindle audio. Like if you just want to listen to them, Failing Forward. I think that's great. Teaching your kids about failure. And what are their emotions behind it? Because being emotionally intelligent is, there's something sometimes if you just need to stop and take a beat, you know, like, wait, let's stop, pause. How am I thinking? And identifying mine, and you're teaching them the same thing. It's so valuable because as they grow up and they're leaders, just even if they're just leaders of themselves, they're learning to lead their emotions, lead and being aware of those. And those emotions, Danielle, we're kind of round it back around to you, is that those emotions then help them to get through hard things because they're like, I am frustrated because this is hard for me. So, okay. And then walking them through the emotions of that. And if that could be its own class, like, okay, let's stop and let's talk about emotions instead. And going through, I know he goes through things like when this happens and you're aware of it, then having steps, like how do I put some steps in place for myself? And they just have to be little things and they're going to make a big difference to make a big change. Understanding when I'm frustrated, what do I need to do? I might need to get up and do some energy changing. I might need to do some jumping jacks. So, I mean, we do that when they're little. Like I have Eliza, okay, get up. Okay, we're frustrated. Let's jumping jacks. Let's go run. Let's take a break. Let's go get some air. Let's change the energy when we're frustrated. Okay, now let's try fresh eyes on it. For me, I have to go get a matcha tea. I do little pats, like those energy pats. And I do that legs up, but readjust my energy. I have to do that. I'm a grown woman. I still have to manage my frustration, manage when I can't stay focused. So I can't imagine, you know, not having those. I wish I had those tools when I was younger and someone had taught me, like Crystal saying, as if I were an adult. What is the, we have Cassie had asked a question. Excited to check out Loyla's website. It's been hard for me to find gentle parenting, emotional awareness resources within the Torah observant circles. Thank you, Cassie. That's sad but true. I feel like one of our goals here is to be a soft place for everyone to land, because we can't cookie cutter, and it can't be you have to do this and this is how it has to be, because I would have been the child that ran away, but that's not how the Father treats us. I don't see that modeled in heaven or on earth, the way through him. I don't see it modeled that way from him. So that's what we kind of want to do, is model this the way he treats us. Like, how is he, if we can stop for a minute and say, well, what does he do for us? So then how do we do that for our kids? I think that's going to be helpful. What's the best way, Loyla, again, what's your website? I'll put it in the chat here again.
Yeah, so mothersintraining.org is my website. My resources are on gentleparentingsolutions.teachable.com. So, the website is more like a calling card, explaining the whole, how I approach parenting and that sort of thing. But in terms of wanting to grab a course or grab a workshop, that's going to be on gentleparentingsolutions.teachable.com. Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any final questions?
I just have a comment.
Yes.
I didn't learn about emotions until I was well into my actually more recently, to me, I always felt like emotions was a weakness. When I grew up, I didn't have the parenting, I didn't have anything. And so, listen to Loyla talk, I was like, I'm so terrible. I didn't feed my kids. I'm a failure, right? But there's a balance there that I'm hearing. And I appreciate so much the fact that there's a site to go to here with Loyla that actually has the skills to teach us about our emotions, because I don't know if many of you are in my age group or in that generation where, being a female was weak, or being fearful was wrong, or being sad was just not acceptable. And there's feelings, these feelings are real. God gave them to us, and they do need to be addressed, and they do need to be touched in a godly way. And our children don't need to suppress all of their feelings, because if I don't know if you guys grew up, but I was taught all of your feelings were to be suppressed. Feelings were not an option. There's not an option there, not alone, let alone learning how to deal with them. So I will be going to Loyla's site, even though I'm no longer parenting now because my children are grown. If I learn how to deal with my emotions through gentle parenting techniques that she has, I'll be able to deal with my children and my grandchildren in a much more graceful, godly way. So I really appreciate, Loyla, you coming on and teaching us about the feelings are not a sin. They're not wrong. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. That was good. I just was speedily typing over in your library. If you go over there for today's call, obviously the video is not there, but I put the references mentioned. If you didn't get a chance to get them in your chats, they're in there. But I also have all of Loyla's contact information there as well. She's also on band with us. So she's over in our band. So if you have questions, you can touch base with her over there as well. And we are praying we get to see more and more of Loyla. And I pray that you touch base with her, use her resources. And yes, Danielle, absolutely. So, great. Any final thoughts from anyone? Any final thoughts?
Oh, I just wanted to say one thing. Quickly, someone was talking about a child wanting all the attention, wanting help with everything and not doing everything. Ever so quickly, one of the things that I taught in the routines and time management was that in setting up a structure where each child has a subject that they struggle with. If you can strategically map out your day in whatever way that works for you, where one child who struggles gets your attention at one particular hour. The next child gets your attention for the subject they struggle with at a different hour, and so on and so forth, depending on how many children you get. Putting that into a schedule that's visual allows a child to see that they are not abandoned to struggle all by themselves with this thing, that there is a time for them to work on their own, and there is a time when mom is coming to help them where they struggle. And that alleviates a lot of anxiety for everyone.
That's such a great tip. Thank you for that. And I can't believe how much Crystal mentioned it, Loyla's mentioned it. How many things, if we learn this for our children, they apply to us as adults, they apply to, I've shared with in my marriage, they've applied to, if your husband knows that he can count on you to be there at a certain time to do a certain thing, he's not going to bother you while you're trying to do, because there's not this, I learned this in nursing, I learned this in waitressing, is that my patients, my call lights hardly ever came on. You know why? Because when I came in and took care of everything and I said, okay, what else can we get? I'm going to be back in 30 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna be, you can, and I was back in 30 minutes, even if it was to say, I said I was gonna be back in 30 minutes, someone has an emergency, I have to take care of it, it's gonna be 30 more minutes. Is there anything you need urgently right now? Okay, bye. They could count on me, so nobody was going, hey, nurse, 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 nurse. I wasn't being wagged by my tail, the tail wasn't wagging the dog. And I think that's what's happened is we're so like, and you learn that if you set the guidelines and they start trusting you, because that happens in your leadership, if in your job, in your leadership, in your home, in ministries, if you're running businesses out of your homes and you have teams you're managing, if they know she says this, then I can expect this. If she says this, then I can expect this. That's with every single relationship in your life. What she just said, you'll need to rewind it and listen to it over and over, because if you get that down, I promise you, it will make a huge impact on every aspect of your life, because people know what to expect. And I think it goes back to the word we hear, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Why? Because people count on you and that you're a woman of your word. And you know what else I think, Loyla, when I found for myself is that when I started doing that, that's the reason I actually operate off a calendar system the way that I do, is because I had to teach my brain that I was a woman of my word, because I kept saying I was going to do things and then I didn't do it for myself. And so my brain then didn't believe me. And now I accomplish those things and my brain knows I am a woman of my word to myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Ladies, thanks. I'm sure you're going to want to go back and re-listen. I have again put a lot of these all up in the I'll put the references that were mentioned. I put all of Loyla's contacts in there. We're looking forward to seeing you next month. Put in, again, band, you guys have your homeschool chat in there, which is, I love it, so active. Help each other out if you have a question. It's no one's allowed to be shameful, and no one's, you know how we are when we are accused of being censoring. We are censoring. I'm not even going to apologize for it. We are censoring. We're censoring bullies. We're censoring Torah terrorists. We're censoring that because we don't have time for that. We're all struggling and learning, and all of our hearts are to pursue Torah with our heart, mind, soul, body, strength. We want him to be Lord of everything in our lives. We're all doing the best we can. And so that's the baseline. And so love each other from that place. And it means the world to me how much you all align with that. And you're just taking care of each other. So guys, be blessed. Father, bless these women as they are raising up these little arrows in their homes. Raise them up. Raise them up, raise their arms up, let them surround themselves. Crystal reminded me today, Father, who's raising me up, who's strengthening me, who's speaking into my life, Father. I just want to say the same for them, Father, that women would be surrounding them, that they would find help, they would find other women who could partner with them in this journey. I thank you, Father, as you're bringing joy into their homes, because you said your joy brings us strength. So Father, for those women who are depleted and they're already exhausted and they just got started this week or last week or whatever, that you would restore joy. They would turn on some music and dance and laugh and giggle. Father, you restore joy back into these homes, that they would twirl around, put on a skirt and twirl with their kids. Amen.